Hello, everyone, and welcome to another real estate market analysis for San Jose, California, where we review all of the most important numbers for San Jose so we can all get a better idea where the market's been, where the market is, and hopefully get some insights into where the market will be going in the coming months. Now, as usual, we're going to go ahead and start with our active listings, but before we jump into the numbers, I just wanted to let everyone know if you'd like to get in contact with me, use any of the tools to help start a search for real estate, or get an instant online value for your home, head on over to soldbyrobert.com. From there, you can either email me or you can use one of those tools, whatever, to help you move further with your real estate goals. So feel free to check those out at soldbyrobert.com. Now let's go ahead and jump in and start with the statistics for active listings in November of 2022. And as we look at these, for those of you who haven't seen my past market analysis videos, let me just calibrate you to what this chart is telling you, because there's two separate things going on. The two things we want to be able to figure out are, how are we doing in November of 2022 compared to November of 2021? So that's a year-over-year change. And the reason we do that is so that we eliminate seasonal changes, right? The seasonal influences. People tend to want to buy and sell homes in the summer months, right? Better weather, it's easier to get things in and out of the house. You don't have to worry about getting wet. Frequently, it's because the kids are out of school, those kinds of things. So there's definitely seasonal influences, and we want to be able to separate those initially so that we can get a feeling for how we're doing when we're compared to the same slice of time last year. So to solve that problem, I have in this graph, all the way to the right, I have November of 2022 and November of 2021 right next to each other. So you can visually see right there that those two are year-on-year results for November of 2022 for San Jose. But what we also have are month-to-month numbers going all the way back to October of 2021 so that we can get a feeling for the trends, right? So just to sort of clear that up for you in case there's any confusion. All right, so where are we? Right now, if we think about active listings as the total inventory for that month, the total homes that buyers had to choose from. So for buyers, that's why this number matters. For sellers, this is the competition. How many homes were you competing with for the attention of buyers in November of 2022? Now, in San Jose, year over year, that number was up almost 51% at 50.6. Last year, we had 403 homes active in November of 2022 in San Jose. This month we had 607. So a dramatic increase in the amount of homes that we're looking at that folks could potentially buy. I think we can all understand why that's the case. The market 1 year ago was very different. Interest rates were more than half what they are now. So borrowing has become much more complicated for folks. And that has definitely pushed down the number of folks out in the market who want to purchase. Now, an interesting thing to note also about this is one of the bigger hit areas are luxury homes. If you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I actually put an article out within the last week or so discussing that, how one of the biggest hit areas have been luxury homes. And if you listen to the podcast, which you can also find at soldbyrobert.com, that was actually the topic of a show a few weeks back where we talked about how these influences really tend to hit the higher end first as folks push down their expectations on how much they're going to be able to spend for a home. All right, now as we look at the new listings for November of 2022, and again, this is the number of sellers who entered the market in that month. So they signed a listing agreement and the real estate agent entered their home into the MLS. This is the measurement of how many homes were put onto the MLS as an active listing in the month of November of 2022 for San Jose. And we can see we're down from the same time last year by 26%. 513 homes were listed in November of last year versus 379 homes this year. And this is kind of an interesting number. This trend of decline is normal for winter, but I'm a little surprised we're not it may be that it's already sort of infused itself into sellers' minds that the market is too soft, that they don't really want to sell in this down market. But I would argue that there are an awful lot of sub-markets within San Jose where that really isn't true, where you can still get your home sold for a very good price very quickly, because as we all know, San Jose is gigantic. There's tons of sub-markets in San Jose. So it would have been an interesting number to see more folks jumping into the role of profit taking relating to their homes in San Jose. But these numbers reflect that that didn't happen. Now, what do we look at here for trends? What are we seeing? Well, the trend isn't too hard to pick out here. We had a peak in March of 2022 at just over 1,000 homes listed, and it's been in steady decline ever since. And that again fits in with the typical year-long, month-to-month trends that we see. But in terms of what we're going to see with new listings coming up, if we look at the trends after November of last year, we saw another decrease in December, which I believe we'll see again this year, more for seasonal reasons than anything else. And then we normally see an uptick in January and February as we push up into March, which is, as we saw last year, a big month for new listings to be coming onto the market. So I think we'll see the same thing. I think we'll likely see lower numbers relating to new listings, but it'll be interesting to see what sellers are thinking and how confident they are they can get their home sold for a price that they're interested in selling at. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at homes sold. This is the total number of homes that actually sold in the month of November. And keep in mind that this is not homes that actually sold in November. And let me explain what I mean by that. These are the homes that closed escrow in November. For those of you who aren't aware, when you buy a home, it takes anywhere from 30 to 45 days, depending on the circumstances, for escrow to close. So just about every home that sold is marked as sold in the multiple listing service in November of 2022 actually went into contract the month before. So these probably all, the contract was signed and agreed upon in October. So from a mental standpoint, from what people were thinking at the time, it actually sold in October because that's when the document was signed. Now, in terms of comparing it to the same time last year, the total number of homes sold is down 51% from the same time last year, which gives us 790 homes that sold in November of 2021 and 387 homes that sold in November of 2022. So a pretty dramatic drop. I apologize. I've got the color of the columns reversed on this one. So just so you're aware of that, that 387 number is November of 2022. It's not for November of 2021. Which would have made sense if the colors had matched. But what can we see here in terms of trends? Now, it's definitely showing us the seasonal trends we expect, but we got an interesting boost in August and September in terms of total number of homes sold. And a lot of this is also going to be affected by what's happening with interest rates during these times, right? And again, remember, these are from the month before. So if we look at these, and folks would lock in their interest rate at the time they made the offer. So they lock in their rate in October, they make the offer in October, and then they get their home sold officially in the following month. So I think a lot of this would match up pretty closely with bad news relating to interest rates. So I think that that's a normal expectation for what we're seeing here in terms of number of homes sold. If we're trying to project what we're going to see in the coming months, we can see that historically, back when the market was much stronger, interest rates were not influencing things as much as they are now. In November of 2021, we saw a drop in December, then the next month by a pretty substantial number. I think we will see the exact same thing. I see and another drop in January, and then a little bit of an uptick in February. I think that same trend will occur, but again, depressed by the fact that buyers aren't able to borrow money at the rates that they were able to a year ago. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at average original list price. Now, this is average original list price, and I tend to go with original list price because this is our opportunity to look inside the minds of sellers at the time that they listed their home. And what do I mean by that? This number, this list price that we're looking at on this chart, is the number that the seller agreed to at the time they listed the home. So this indicates when the seller first listed their home in this month, but only in the month of November, right? So these are only homes that were listed in the month of November. Sellers believed they should get this amount of money for their home, right? And if we look at the change from the same time last year, since November of last year, sellers' expectations of what they want to get for their home is up 9.7%. Last year, it was $1,247,000 was the average original list price. The average original list price this year in November of 2022 was $1,369,000. So keep that in mind as we move forward with these numbers. The next number we're going to look at is interesting because it's the sales numbers, and it gives us an opportunity to contrast what list price is versus what homes are actually selling for on average in the same month. But remember, when we're talking about home sales, that's from the month before. The offer was made the month before. All right. And as far as trends go, it all looks relatively flat to me. Definitely, we see a little bit of a peak in May and June. There's an artificial peak in August of 2022 because someone entered an incorrect original list price by added a couple of zeros. So if we were to normalize that number, it would be more like 1.425, right, in that neighborhood. But relatively flat. with a subtle trend down since about May, with a little bit of fluctuation. So we'll see how this goes, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see this continue to trend downward in the coming months. I don't really see anything, at least in the first quarter of 2023, that's going to change the financial situation for lending. I know there have been articles that are optimistic about reducing interest rates, but the Fed has already said that they are going to continue to increase rates in 2023, but probably slow it so that they don't raise things by 0.75, but raise it by a half a basis point instead of a 0.75 basis point. But that has yet to be seen. We'll see what they actually end up doing. All right, average sales price. So this is what homes actually sold for. And in San Jose, that number's down 4%. So if we compare and contrast, expectations from the same time last year were up almost 10%. But the reality is that what homes are selling for is 4% less than the same time last year. So what does that equal? Last year, a home was selling on average for $1,337,000. This year, $1,284,000. And also keep in mind that this is not a equal sampling, right, across the entire market. It is just what is sold, which also is an indicator of where buyers are focusing their attention. And buyers are, by nature of interest rates, focusing on lower amounts in terms of what they want to spend on a home. So it obviously would force this to go to a lower number, but that's really unimportant, right? If you're trying to sell your home and you have to sell it, at some point you have to nudge that price down to entice buyers to buy at your price point. And that's the way the market is playing out right now. Now, in terms of what we're seeing historically, our peak was April of 2022, and we've had a pretty steady decline since then with a little bit of fluctuation. October, it was up a little bit and then down again in November. I expect to continue to see this number going down as sellers are calibrated to the new market, the reality of the market. Hopefully, we'll see this number become a little bit more closely in line with the original list price, so that sellers their expectations are more realistic based on what the market will actually bear for getting their home sold. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at percent of list price. So this is what folks get from the buyer's perspective now. We're not looking at this from the seller's perspective as much. This is what the home sold for compared to what the list price was at the time the offer was made. So before, we were looking at what the list price was based on what the sellers originally listed it for, because that was their initial expectation in their heads. This is what a buyer's expectations were because when they looked at this house, they saw whatever the list price was at that time. So if a house had been originally listed for $1 million, but it had been dropped to $900,000, then $800,000, then $700,000, and then a buyer made an offer, this number represents the relationship between the list price and what it sold for based on that $700,000 number, the number it was when it was actually receiving an offer. And this lets us get an idea of where buyers are calibrated. Now, last year, homes were selling with multiple offers. I think the record I saw in offers that I presented was, I think, 29, 30-something offers on one property. It was crazy. That's not happening anymore, and that is definitely reflected in these numbers where we have below 100% for this year. But last year, it was 107.8%. So on average in San Jose, homes were selling for 7.8% above asking price at the time that they sold. This year, they're at 99.2, so almost 1% below asking price. And we can see we peaked at 116%, which is crazy. So in March, folks were getting about 16% over their list price when they sold their home. We can see the trend is not hard to iron out here. We have a peak in March and we have a steady decline. It's no coincidence that over this period of time, that's when we started to see increases in interest rates. So that's definitely what's put the brakes on this. It has reduced the number of buyers and completely removed the idea of regularly getting multiple offers on properties. Now, an interesting thing to note is multiple offers, again, do still happen on some homes in San Jose. Again, it depends on what submarket your home is located in. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at days on market. Now, for a long time, we really didn't care much about this number because it was really a fake number. Last year, you can see it was 17 days to get a home sold in San Jose. We're up 82.4% in November of 2022 for 31 days. We're going to talk about two things here. One, why it was fake numbers before, and two, why anything over 30, I think, is a magic number as it relates to days on market. So back when the number was 17 days, 15, 11, 9, 11, 13, the reason why homes were selling in those amounts of time was because in the listing, it would say, we won't look at any offers until such and such a date. And typically, that date was anywhere from a week to 2 weeks from the day the home was listed, so that we could get buyers in the home over, say, 2 weekends, or just get give plenty of people an opportunity to see the home to make an offer on it. And for those of you who tried to buy a home during this time, you're very aware of that they weren't even entering into considering your offers until that date and time came. And for those of you who sold, it was an amazing time for you to review 15 to 30 offers on your home. Those days are gone. And now that we've hit this 30 plus number, and I think psychologically 30 days is a big number in terms of days on market. It's the point at which, if sellers have not already sort of embraced this idea that they need to make a change to how they're marketing their home, they hit that 30-day mark, and I think that is pretty much the brick wall for everyone. And at that point, most sellers are going to come to the conclusion that they need to entertain offers that are below their asking price. And I think that's true of most areas once you hit that 30 days. Now, this is a conversation a seller should be having with their agent after just a week or two, depending on how much activity the home gets. It's a good idea to be constantly plinking away at how much attention is your property getting, how many showings is it getting. If it's gotten 5 or more showings and it hasn't gotten an offer, why is that the case? Almost always it's a price-related issue, or if it's something relating to the property itself, that's something else you might address. But once you hit this 30-day mark, and we're going to talk a little bit more about getting a little bit of a deeper insight into the days on market linked also with home folks that have reduced the price on their home. But 31 is a magic number for me. Anything from 30 on, I think, is one of those psychological numbers that have an impact on sellers that indicate that you as a buyer should consider being able to make a more aggressive offer on a home, be willing to come in under asking price, and be willing to spread this out. You can always write up a contract so that it's sort of needs your approval before they can accept it. In other words, if they accept it, it needs your counter approval. But if you find that you're looking at a home that's only been on the market for 2 or 3 weeks and you really like it, but the price is too high, you'll want it. It's always a good idea to submit an offer that's at the price you want it to be, and then just let them know, if you change your mind, make sure to reach out to us so that they have the details of what your offer would be in that document. Or less formally, just put it into an email and send it off to their agent so that they know what it is. And you can formalize it with a signed contract if the time comes that they're no longer so married to their listing price because they've been on the market for so long. Okay, price reductions. Now, we've got a lot of interesting numbers on this one, and I've expanded it from past presentations because I think it's worth paying attention to because it's becoming so common and such a big part of our market right now. Now, last month in San Jose, in October, we had 45.7% of the homes on the market reduce their price. This month, in November of 2022, that number was 42.2%. So really in the same general ballpark, but it would be normal to expect this number to gradually decline as more and more properties realize they're overpriced and do those price reductions. And then new homes that get added to the market are hopefully already calibrated through their pricing to the new reality of the market. So this number should hopefully go down. But I want to share with you a few tidbits relating to this number, specifically for San Jose for the month of November. Now, the average amount that a home was reduced was $134,257. The average days on market out of all of just the homes that have had a price reduction is 81 days. So think about that. The average days on market for these properties are homes that have been on the market for more than twice what other properties have been on the market for. So some of these were desperate for price reductions. And as I look at the list, I see some that are 137 days, 129 days, 102, 142, 145, 167, 226. Some of these homes needed adjustments long ago that would have helped. There's one home here that had nearly a $1 million price reduction after it had been on the market for 205 days. Which was late in the process. Now, the reason why I'm harping on this a little bit is if you're a seller and you're in this mode, you're going to find yourself chasing a dropping price. Prices are dropping each month. Now, if you had priced your home correctly or reasonably right off the bat, let's say 100 days ago, you would have sold that home immediately and gotten that price. Now, there's no way today that you could get the price it would have sold for 100 days ago. It is now less. So you don't want to get yourself into a scenario where you're constantly chasing what the current price is, which is what a lot of these folks obviously are in the position of. Now, the median number is 95,000. So half the price reductions were above 95,000 and half the price reductions were below 95,000. That's what that number means. With the maximum, the highest amount being $991,000 and the lowest being $9,000. And the shortest amount of time any of these homes been on the market is 19, and the highest is 226 days. And what's interesting about that number is it's actually good to see someone doing this just after 19 days, simply because, and it's not a crazily priced home. It's priced under $1 million. It's now priced at $830,000 in San Jose. But you have to really stay on top of this, because as the way the market is going, every month that you delay on this and achieving the right price, it's costing you more, because the right price you come down to this month and could get this month is higher than the number you would get if you do this next month. So again, kind of repeating in a different way, you don't want to be chasing a dropping market. And that's happening with an awful lot of these folks. These are some classic mistakes that relatively new agents will make if you're dealing with someone who's newer to the business. If you're dealing with someone who's only been in real estate for the last 5 years, this is completely new to them. They have no idea what's going on, and they don't have strategies to deal with it. So you're going to want to have a conversation with them about what needs to happen in order for you to get your home sold. And you need to reevaluate. Do you go ahead and adjust your price downward to get sold? Or do you decide I can wait however long it's going to take for this market to turn around and sell it at that point? And I think you may be in for a year or two or even 3 before we truly see the market turn around in terms of dealing with inflation now and higher interest rates, and then dealing ultimately with recessionary influences that will then need to have interest rates be reduced, which would probably solve a huge chunk of this problem that we're in for sellers. Okay. So that covers just about everything for San Jose. I think we've gotten some really good info, particularly some insights into the psychology of what's happening with sellers in San Jose and reducing prices. Now, as always, the goal is to leave you with more knowledge on the table than I've taken up in your time. I sure hope we've achieved that. If you have any questions, if you'd like me to do a comparative market analysis on your home, or just chat about your real estate goals, or talk about the market over a cup of coffee, feel free to reach out to me. Again, you can find me at soldbyrobert.com. Thanks for checking out the video today, folks. I'll see y'all next time.